Team USA, we are ready to roll.
Extraordinary moments.
Beautiful night for some football. The biggest spectacle in golf.
Skying to the rim.
A lot of stars for you on Sunday Night Football.
NBC Sports, celebrating its 20th season of Sunday Night Football, welcomes you to the following presentation of the National Football League.
The following programming is EI, educational and informative.
Welcome to Science Now.
Hey everybody.
Let's get things rolling with a quick look at 4 awesome discoveries.
Check them out.
The tortoiseshell design is popular. Glasses, earrings, buttons, cats, and now a drug capsule that delivers insulin. In this case, it's more the shell than the design. This capsule contains a small biodegradable needle with a tip made of insulin that is injected after the capsule reaches the stomach. Just like the tortoiseshell allows the tortoise to right itself, the capsule can right itself and release insulin into the stomach wall. The researchers say it's pain-free, and in animals, it's comparable to injections for delivering insulin. Plus, it can be adapted to deliver other protein drugs.
When it gets hot in the hive, bees use their wings to draw hot air out and let cool air in. But researchers have found that instead of spreading out across the hive's entrance, the bees' HVAC team clusters at the hottest areas, which have the highest air outflow. Clustering there allows more cool air to enter the nest because of the physics of friction and flow. They also found different bees start fanning at different temperatures, resulting in continuous ventilation and more stable temperatures. This could provide bioinspiration for human-made cooling systems. Pretty cool.
Back to the future. Scientists say vast reservoirs of carbon dioxide on the ocean floor, mostly located near hydrothermal vents, could superheat the planet if released. The international team found evidence these reservoirs were destabilized about 17,000 years ago, and the release of CO2 helped warm the planet enough to end the ice age. What triggered the CO2 release? Warming oceans, it appears, and the oceans are warming now. The study makes it clear these recently discovered carbon reservoirs are at risk in the future as oceans warm and should be factored into climate models.
Tropical reefs can flip from vibrant coral clusters to underwater fields of seaweed. Researchers have now determined that both seaweed and coral can exist under the same conditions. But here's the catch. The amount of seaweed-eating herbivores is a major factor in whether the site becomes a coral reef or a seaweed field. The research also shows it's tougher to restore an altered ecosystem to its previous state, like returning a seaweed-covered lagoon to a thriving coral reef, than it is to maintain its initial condition. Could have broad implications for reef conservation. And there you go, 4 awesome discoveries.
And now, here's more.
To meet her, you'd never know it. Daisha Reed has brain damage. A car coming out of a blind alley knocked her off her bike when she was a child.
Face processing is especially dependent on the right temporal lobe, and so it's on the side here.
Daisha made a good recovery and leads a normal life, but she says she long had a nagging feeling that something was off.
It took a really long time, just a few years ago, that I really realized I had a hard time with facial recognition.
It's called prosopagnosia, or face blindness. With support from the National Science Foundation, psychologist Brad Duchesne and a team at Dartmouth College want to understand how we recognize and process faces. To do it, they study the brains of people who can't.
My main interest is trying to understand the organization of the normal brain. And we use these brains that have suffered brain damage to try to make inferences about the way the normal brain operates.
Acquired prosopagnosia is a rare condition. Duchesne says maybe only a few thousand people have it in all of North America. About 20 of them, including Daisha, are coming here to his lab to undergo a battery of tests.
You ready? Mm-hmm.
Like the famous FACES test.
I don't know. John Travolta.
Yeah, baby.
That chin, you can't deny the chin.
But they do other testing as well.
Same.
Can they tell when one circle is slightly bigger than another? Can they remember seeing a particular scene or a certain kind of car?
And so imagine that we find somebody who's suffered brain damage and they can't recognize faces any longer, but they can still recognize cars in a parking lot and they can recognize scenes and things like that. What that suggests is that faces are processed by different mechanisms in the brain.
And they do brain scans, MRI and functional MRI, watching which parts of the brain are active when they see faces or other scenes.
They are missing certain parts of the brain, or they have damaged certain parts of the brain, and we see that in MRI scans. And so if the part's not there, it can't act on anything. So we can make inferences on what that part does.
The ultimate goal? Better understanding of how the brain divides up tasks.
We hope that by really developing an understanding of face processing itself, that'll provide us with sort of a model for understanding the way other parts of the brain work.
Duchesne says his work won't lead directly to any treatments for the face blind, but Daisha still wants to be part of it.
Well, I'm glad if they can learn things from me. It also helped me when I found out what my condition was, because I kind of recognized that's why, I don't recognize people, because there is an issue with the facial recognition.
Probing the brain to understand better how our minds process what we see.
We'll be right back with more Science Now after this brief break.
Tech War will continue right after this.
My world is in constant motion. The gym, the airport, the spotlight. I've learned that when I'm comfortable, I'm able to slow things down. Vuori DreamNet moves with me, stretches as I stretch, and keeps me steady through it all. So even though I'm always on the move, it's the comfort of DreamNet that keeps me grounded.
And now back to Tech War.
Welcome back.
Heat transfer is involved in everything from computer chips to spacecraft. Cooling systems that use liquid that changes phase, like water boiling on a surface, play an important role in emerging technologies, including microchips and solar power systems. But understanding the role vapor bubbles play in cooling electronic components is critical.
When you see a conventional boiling process taking place, such as in your kitchen, there are vapor bubbles rising from the surface. It's primarily a battle between two forces. One force that's trying to keep the bubbles attached to the surface, and one that's trying to tear them away. The one that's keeping them attached are surface tension forces, and the one that's tearing them away are buoyancy forces. Those work with in the presence of gravity. And when you have no gravity, such as in outer space applications, spacecraft applications, then there's an imbalance of those forces, which then doesn't allow a vapor bubble to leave the surface. So the very aspect that causes boiling to be an efficient heat transfer mechanism is now completely removed.
That is why NSF-supported Auburn University engineers are looking to space for help. They have sent their ASCENT project to the International Space Station National Lab to explore how vapor bubbles react in the weightlessness of space.
So like with any other type of craft, an aircraft or an automobile even, there are heat generating components on board a spacecraft. And to try to cool them most efficiently, one would lean on a process such as boiling. And if that process doesn't work well, then you have to do something to adapt, to make it work well. Because otherwise, we've seen prior imagery from prior missions where you have these vapor bubbles that continue to adhere to the surface and become larger and larger to where you've got a large vapor mass sitting on the surface. And heat transfer to vapor is even worse than heat transfer to a stagnant pool of liquid. So it actually takes you in the wrong direction. So our efforts will hopefully allow that vapor mass to be carried away.
The goal is to develop simple, passive automated technologies to stop premature electronic burnout in current electronics and future technology that rely on this two-phase cooling process.
So conventional cooling techniques like just forced convection, blowing things, and natural convection have their limits in the amount of heat they can dissipate. So this project that uses two-phase boiling can actually move vapor bubbles passively across microstructured surfaces and electronic surfaces, so it can propel next-gen electronics.
We'll be right back with more Science Now after this brief break.
Tech World will continue right after this.
All of our favorite items from the Better Together shop are on sale now.
You do not want to miss these deals.
Visit bettertogether.tv/shop today.
And now back to Tech World.
Welcome back.
Ever heard the old saying, "I can hear you thinking across the room"? Here in the Bat Lab at Johns Hopkins University, that is literally true.
We're investigating how animals, including humans, use sensory information to guide their behavior.
That chirping noise you hear is the slowed down, electronically enhanced call of an echolocating bat in flight. It's like natural sonar, reflecting off objects in the environment. With support from the National Science Foundation, neuroscientist Cindy Moss and her team are tuning their ears to these calls. They want to better understand how these highly specialized creatures navigate their world. That, in turn, can tell them something about how we do it, too.
We think that the processing of the sound information, once it returns to the bat's ears, is comparable to information that another animal may get directly from the environment, say light that is processed through the visual system.
In this test, the bat has been trained to fly through a small opening in a net that divides the room, marked by a white cone. Listen to its call rate go up as it approaches the hole. There it goes. Let's watch again in slow motion.
So we're interested in how the bat uses echolocation to build pictures, if you will, of the world. Not just a single target, but where the target is with respect to many other objects. Sort of like a scene.
When he finally lands on the other side, he gets a treat. In fact, for bats, nothing satisfies quite like mealworms. And this girl, who goes by the name Black 69, has a real taste for them.
So we have a bat on a platform, and it's trained to track a target that's moving towards it.
In this test, Moss and the team say the stationary bat behaves much as it would if it were hunting an insect in flight. It echolocates as a string of mealworms moves down a guide wire right toward its mouth.
So this gives us the opportunity to look closely at the bat, what it's doing as it's tracking. We can look at its ear movements, its head movements. We can look at the timing of its calls with respect to the target position, and we have complete control over that target position.
Moss says what's great about studying bat brains is the animal essentially broadcasts its thought processes as it goes about its natural behaviors, like hunting for its next meal.
So one of the very lofty goals in neuroscience is to understand brain function. What does that mean? It means activity of the brain in the context of real-world behaviors. The bat, as an active sensing animal that produces the sounds that guide its behavior, provide us with a window to information processing.
And she says while we humans engage the world very differently, we have more in common with bats than we might think.
Bats are mammals, just like humans, and so some of our discoveries can then prompt further lines of inquiry so that neuroscientists as a whole can determine what's special about a given animal and what's general about mammalian nervous system.
Understanding the workings of the brain by listening in to bats. Rewards all around for that.
We all know that being a teenager can be full of difficult, sometimes stressful emotional experiences, but a new study sheds light on a possible reason why. NSF-funded researchers discovered that adolescents don't distinguish between negative emotions as clearly as younger children and adults. The Harvard University team tracked how 143 participants ranging in age from 5 to 25 reacted to negative images using words like angry, disgusted, sad, scared, and upset. The team found that children tend to report feeling only one emotion at a time, producing differentiated but sparse emotional experiences. Meanwhile, teens were more likely to experience emotions at the same time and had difficulty distinguishing between them. But adults tended to feel several emotions simultaneously and could distinguish between them. The team says struggling to differentiate emotions could be confusing to teens and may be connected to heightened risk of mental illness, often associated with adolescence. While more research is needed to determine a link between low emotion differentiation in adolescence and teenage mental disorders like anxiety and depression, the team hopes to use these findings as a springboard to learn more about what happens when teen emotions go awry.
We'll be right back with more Science Now after this brief break.
Tech War will continue right after this.
Fans are the heartbeat of the game. The fans aren't there and the energy isn't up, it can completely change the momentum of the game. In my relationship with fans, it's extremely important. Knowing that I have all of these amazing women by my side who know that they belong here, it is everything. Fan like a pro at NFLshop.com.
This broadcast is copyrighted by NFL Productions for the private use of our audience. Any other use of this broadcast or any pictures, descriptions, or accounts of the game without the consent of NFL Productions is prohibited.
And now back to Tech War.
Welcome back.
Well, in the future, I would like to see flying cars.
The wheels, like, go out like this and you just fly.
We could create something that a lot of people need that would bring us all together.
I would like to invent a kind of medicine that would stop the disease.
I do know in developing countries, water is really, really hard to get.
Okay, I think a good invention for the future would be a giant atmospheric filter that kind of covered the globe.
You could add in random boosters to skateboards and bikes that would make you go faster.
Phones that have holograms, because that sounds pretty cool. Engineering is, I don't really know, but I think just making things for the better.
You find things made by engineers everywhere. If you look around, everything you see, your car, your toaster, your shoes, your house.
The building you go to school in, there was a civil engineer involved in that. The computers that we play on, there was a mechanical engineer, an electrical engineer.
Paint, you name it, anything.
toilet paper, shampoo, food products.
Engineering is all around you.
Engineers are everywhere.
Everywhere.
I think it would take somebody with a really powerful growth mindset to accomplish things like this.
Because, you know, you can't just think about it. You have to actually think about it, you know, because those things are really hard to think about.
You have to be really smart. You also have to be really creative.
You would need to have problem-solving skills.
It's just a matter of having a little curiosity and the drive to do something to help the world.
I think sometimes we can be stereotyped as you have to be nerdy, or you have to be a boy, or you have to look a certain way, and I don't think that's true. I think anyone can be an engineer. A good engineer is able to come up with creative solutions to problems. They communicate with a lot of people of different fields and just working in teams.
You have to have the thirst for knowledge. You have to always want to learn.
Anything science related, so biology, chemistry, calculus, physics.
You absolutely do not have to be a math whiz to study engineering.
I think you have to be able to understand basic concepts of it, but I don't think you have to be some genius to be an engineer.
Engineers will always be in demand. That's one of the reasons why I chose engineering, because you will always need engineers to help you solve the next generation's problems.
Engineering gives you so many opportunities. There's so many different disciplines you can get into.
I can't think of another profession that has the flexibility that engineers have and the type of work that they can do on a day-to-day basis and on a career-long basis, different areas that you can get involved with.
It's incredible to think about what we can do as engineers to impact the world.
I became an engineer because I want to help people and I want to improve people's lives.
You can build anything. You can make anything. You can solve real-world problems.
Our society can't advance without that innovation in the technology fields.
I knew I wanted to be a positive contributor to society.
I love the challenge.
There's always something to improve upon. Nothing's perfect.
You're helping people, you're changing lives, in some ways, you're saving lives, right?
More robots everywhere, like helping in hospitals and helping people like on the street.
One day, in the future, I would like to build lenses because some people are blind and they can't really see anything, so they're missing out on a lot of beautiful things to see on this Earth.
I'd invent a machine that could take you to Jupiter and let you explore other parts of the galaxy.
It would just be really cool to be able to teleport places.
And that's what engineering is.
Yes, I can picture myself being an engineer.
Well, that's our show for today.
Thanks for watching.
See you next time.
The 95 World Series, the Breeders' Cup, Super Bowl 30, the NBA Finals, the Olympic Games, all on America's sports leader, NBC.
NBC Sports, celebrating its 20th season of Sunday Night Football. Thank you for watching this presentation of the National Football League.
This program has been produced by the Baseball Network in association with NBC Sports.